Hello and welcome to this penultimate weekly curriculum connections video for our Stage 3 trainees at Bradford College. So this week, beginning the 22nd of June, the spotlight is moving back to professional behaviours and the core competency of professional behaviours, or part 2 of the teacher's standards. The big question is, how has my understanding of what it means to be a teacher evolved throughout my initial teacher education, and what are my next steps in becoming an inclusive, reflective and impactful practitioner? This question will actually be for the week beginning the 22nd and the final week of placement, but I'm going to tweak it slightly for them to think about being an ECT in their final week. But this is the opportunity to discuss with you and think about the progress they've made, the areas of development that they've been able to see clearly, and the impact that that's had on children's learning and their practice. So in this penultimate week, the trainees should be teaching an 80% teaching timetable, the same as an early career teacher, planning, resourcing, leading with confidence now, aspects of all teaching, including the environment, and those transitions of points for all of the children. We would also ask that you and they should be receiving a school experience evaluation on Abiasa this week, and ask that you could complete that. So as school mentor, this week we would ask if you could complete the Stage 3 assessment report that is on Abiasa, and that's completed by the 26th of June, so by Friday. This assessment is against the teacher standards, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But other than that, usual practice of a weekly observation and a weekly mentor meeting, and ensuring that the trainees are clear about what they're going to be teaching in their last week of placement. As usual, please make sure that if there's been any concerns, either professionalism, conduct-wise, teaching and learning, that you've made contact with the lead mentor so that we can really address that. So the school-based tasks and that supporting conversations this week is really linked to that big question. So the idea about their progress that they've made and the next steps that they would make to address to becoming that fully inclusive, full and impactful practitioner. So how have their skills or knowledge developed over the placement? What areas are they continuing to develop? How, in sort of that facilitated reflective conversation, can the trainees identify the elements of practice that they still need to continue to work on as they start their early career teaching? And sort of what evidence do they demonstrate for the different teacher standards? As we know, coming to the end of their training, but also the end of this Stage 3 placement, we make the assessment judgments against the teacher standards. And that's why I've put this assessment report in. It's slightly different to the ones that you've had if you've had any trainees on our Stage 1 or Stage 2 placement. It's still completed on Abiasa. The first part that you can see on the left-hand side of this screen is where you identify whether they've met or not met the teacher's standard. And then on the right, it breaks that down further. It identifies the full aspect of the teacher's standards, and then asks you to identify the met or not met, and then has the comments about that. And the idea there is that those comments are supporting the evidence that you've seen or have to show how the trainee has done that, or areas for development. I, as a program lead, use the outcomes of this and your lead mentor's testimonials to have the dialogue with the trainee about their ECT targets that they will take into their first job. And some of our trainees are successful and have got first jobs, and some are looking. And so this also all feeds into their references too. Now, you might think, actually, I've still been using the core competencies more than looking at the teacher standards in the last couple of weeks. The document that's at the front of the stage 3 booklet has a really clear link in how the core competencies all directly link into the teacher standards. So if you've been using the core competencies and focusing on that stage 3 column, then you can be assured that that means that the trainees have been being assessed and looked at the teacher standards throughout. But it might be useful to have the teacher standards PDF one sheet overview next to you having conversations with the trainees as you're thinking about this assessment report. I will have attached an example of a completed Word document that I've written to support in writing that assessment report if you would like any support with that, and I'll attach that to the email that I send out for this week. The lead mentors have a checkpoint 5 to complete after Friday the 26th of June, but quite quickly after Friday the 26th of June, where they are moderating that final assessment report. Does that final assessment report match the conversations that they've had with you as the lead mentor? There shouldn't really be anything that's a surprise in the final assessment report. You know, if there was going to be a not met, we would certainly have expected to have had a dialogue or a conversation prior to the submission of the report. They're checking that the report is against the core competencies and teachers standards that verify the progression of our trainees. It also is following up any issues with the school mentor if there are any questions or concerns in relation to completing of the assessment report. And then you will find you are not able as the school mentor to submit that final assessment report because the lead mentor has to complete the testimonial box before the submission box is selected. And so as lead mentors, we do this checkpoint 4, fill in our testimonial and then submit it. And then we have to complete our tick box on checkpoint 5 to say that we've looked at that assessment report and that we've completed that testimonial that we have to fill in as well. So please don't hesitate to ask any questions of your lead mentors in relation to the assessment report or any concerns you've got in relation to filling that in for your trainee. Also, please feel free to contact me if you've got any other questions about that assessment report. Even though that assessment report is submitted on Friday the 26th of June, our trainees still have a week to finish placement. If there was to be an issue or for example, a safeguarding concern during that last week, then absolutely we would still want you to contact us. We can still amend and address the assessment report should there be an absolute requirement to because of something happening. Obviously that's a rarity, but I did want you to know that it doesn't mean that just because the form's been submitted on Friday the 26th of June, our trainees are not expected to just put their feet up and go, oh, that's okay, my assessment report's been done, I don't need to do anything now. So that line about making sure that they keep going all the way through to the end of this placement. There will be one more video just to talk about the last week and to thank you really for all the support that you've given. But once again, thank you for your time. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to speaking to you next week. Bye.